Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and on this episode we are returning to a franchise that we've been working through since last October, and that is the Howling.
Oh jeez.
I know, it's been a long journey to number 6, Tim. It's been a long journey.
It'll be almost a year until we finish it.
Yeah, something like that. Joe, what's that really gets me, Tim, is that
What's that?
I'm at the point now where I miss like Howling 2 and 3. Like, I really missed 2 and 3, because 2 and 3 were not good movies, but 2 and 3 were so silly and campy, and had so many silly ideas that they were fun to watch to a point. And I feel like 4 was not so much, 5 not so much, and now we're going to talk about Howling 6, The Freaks, which came out in 1991. This is a 90s movie. See, when you were watching this, did you think, oh, this looks like it's it's newer, it's the 90s? I didn't.
No.
I didn't.
No. You can tell they were going for that timeless quality. They want you to be able to watch it in any decade.
I mean, I don't know if timeless is the word I'd associate with the Howling franchise. So yeah, we're going to start spoiler free as we always do. We'll warn you somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers, and we'll talk about this. First thing I'm going to say, Tim, is I did not notice this. I actually went looking for it once I discovered this online. But do you know there's actually an element in this movie that is continuity tying to the previous film?
No. I have no idea.
Apparently, the person who turned out to be the werewolf in number 5 has a cameo in this.
Okay.
Now, I went looking for the person. Again, I'm avoiding spoilers for the last one just so that I'm not saying who it is, but I couldn't remember what they look like. I had to Google an image, and then I looked for them. Apparently, I'll stand in the crowd in one of the carnival bits, but don't really do much with it. But it was intentional. It's intentional. Which raises a lot, because up until now, I've basically just accepted that all the Howling movies are pretty much in their own continuity because nothing seems to match or line up or anything. And I feel like
sounds about right.
Telling me this takes place in the same continuity as number 5 actually gives it more plot holes, because in the last couple of movies they told us a lot of things. They established a lot of rules. They established that werewolves don't turn because of the full moon. They turn whenever they want to. And this movie does not apply to that whatsoever.
Oh no. And it's like, why does it? Like, why does that even matter? I don't know. Like, it'd be one thing if the plots had something to do with one another or something, but that's stupid. And it's just an Easter egg that no one asked for.
Sure. Okay. All right. You diehard Howling fanatics can give us your reasons why that's false. I'm sure you've all got big charts and stuff that connect all the movies. They've got the strings and the pin boards. This is how Howling 4 connects to 2, and this is how 7 connects to the remake or whatever. We don't have a remake yet. We had kind of a reboot, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, so Howling 6. What's Howling 6 about? Howling 6 starts with one of the most silly slow motion opening scenes I've ever seen. It's a POV shot, presumably from a werewolf, but it's so smooth. It's on a Steadicam that it doesn't feel like it's actually from a POV of an animal that's rabid and running and wild. And you've got the woman running from, and just really, really slow motion. And she drops a teddy bear. And we cut to a drifter, a lonely man walking down a desert road holding this teddy bear. So obviously your first instinct is like, okay, so either he's a werewolf or he knew the person, he retrieved this teddy bear, and he's hunting the werewolf, right? One of those two options.
Sure.
Okay. What don't you agree about that deduction, Tim?
I agree.
Okay. I'm not convinced. I'm going to lie. You don't sound very committed to that statement, but we'll move forward in the interest of time.
The thing is, it just feels like I feel like you have to care, in order to have an opinion.
Well, I mean, sure, but I'm still trying to figure the movie out as I'm watching it, even if it is garbage. First things first, I counted at least 3 boom mics over the course of this movie. There's one after because the opening through the walking through the desert scene is the credits, right? So the titles are coming up during the music. The very first scene after that is like the town mayor, because it's a small town it's set in, is the mayor talking to the sheriff. And in this scene, there's a boom mic creeping in at the top, right? And what really gets me about it is you can tell that while they were shooting, they noticed it was in the shot, and you can quickly see it get pulled up. Like they realized and pulled it up, and they still used that take. Do the shot again. Is it movie making 101? If that take wasn't perfect, do it again.
Well, I really hope someone was fired over that blunder.
I'm pretty sure most of the people in this movie's careers went nowhere after this. So if you want to count that as being fired, then yeah, sure, go for it. So this drifter comes into town, and the sheriff gives him the typical, "We don't like your kind around here. You're a stranger. You know, don't be here too long." But the town is so
it's like, listen, we have about 5 people in this town, and that's kind of about where we like to keep it.
We have about 5 people until the carnival arrives, and then the carnival scene has 100 people for some reason out of nowhere, just appeared suddenly.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there's a drought going on. Apparently it's so bad that this other dude in the town just comes up. This father preacher dude, I think his name is Winston. He comes up and says, "Hey, have you ever worked with wood?" And I thought it was coming on to him. I thought this was a weird come on. He's like, "Hey, did you ever work with wood?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And the sheriff, of course, is like, "Oh, what sort of accent is that?" And I'm like, "I'm British." And he's like, "Oh, is that right?" he's very mistrusting of outsiders. I've never I've seen this trope done so many times in movies where the sheriff and the local hicks, if you will, don't like the outsider being there. I've never seen them be suspicious of an English person like this.
Yeah.
Usually it's the city folk, or it's a weirdo or something, and he's a bit of a loner, sure, but it's like he hears the English accent, he's like, "Oh my god, what type of weirdo foreigner are you?" It's weird. I don't ever see that.
And also, I don't think it's a super heavy British accent. It kind of to me, it didn't sound strikingly foreign or something. It just kind of sounded like a little bit of a gruff guy who's kind of maybe more of a serious dude or something. Yeah. But it sounded more I don't know.
To the point, actually, where I didn't actually catch that it was British at first. It wasn't until he said it was British, and then I started listening to him. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of English." But the first time he said something, I just thought it came out kind of weird. It sounded like his accent was mixing with another accent or something like that. I don't know. But so this dude Winston says, "Hey, have you ever worked with wood?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, you're hired. I can't pay you, but I'll give you a room, and I can feed you, and even give you some clothes." And he's like, "All right, that sounds great." And he brings it back. He's got a church that he's fixing up. It's just a bit run down, and they need to repanel the outside and paint it and all the rest of it. So you help me fix this place up, and I'll feed you, and you stay here. And he's like, "Sure." And this leads to obviously the Winston's got a daughter, who is obviously the love interest, right? As soon as she walks out, it's like, oh, sparks are flying with her and the and her main drifter dude, and he
again, she's kind of forced to, because there really is no one else in this town.
Exactly, yes. She's just, it's kind of awkward, but you can tell she's kind of like, "Oh, out of town, handsome man. Oh, I'm just the
fancy man.
Fancy man, yes."
Oh, I thought he said pantsy. I guess he is wearing pants, but
that's not what a pansy is, Tim.
No, pantsy. Not pansy.
That's a really specific thing you thought I said that doesn't exist. It's not like you hear.
That's why I thought it was so strange.
It's not like you hear other people say pantsy in another context,
I know, that's why I was so taken aback.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, regardless of Tim's hearing difficulties, we'll get him a hearing aid. New Patreon goal: Tim gets a hearing aid. So we get a montage to this really upbeat Christian music saying, what was the main thing it was saying? "Oh, the Lord has blessed us," or something like that. But it was like a country. Yeah. It was like a country Christian song playing as
to the point where I kind of thought, is this a Christian movie?
Yeah.
Is this a low key some church group bought the rights to the Howling franchise,
You know,
and
like,
we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna.
I get what you mean. Like, it actually, I mean, it isn't like after this scene, it never really comes up again. Like, it kind of like, you know, like they fix up the church, and then once that's done, it's never really like it's not a major theme of the movie, not really. But I see what you mean. Like, given this scene, you think, oh, maybe this is going to be like a backdoor kind of like how Birdemic is like as a global warming like movie. This, you know, be a backdoor Christian movie.
Oh boy, is it!
And I actually agree with the message of global warming. It's just that doesn't make Birdemic any easier or better to watch.
I agree with the message that birds are scary.
Birdemic. Do you know what? My one disappointment of watching Birdemic after you know seeing the trailer and knowing of its mystique and the how terrible it is was that song from the trailer.
One disappointment.
Yes, that
only one. Okay.
Just well, yeah, I was expecting gobshite, Tim. I was expecting terrible. My one disappointment was that awful rock song.
There was a boom in the mic, or a boom in the shot.
A boom in the mic. That's impressive, Tim.
Oh no, that would be even worse.
Yeah. I think you've just broke your mic at that point, Tim. So no, the awful rock song where they scream Birdemic over and over again in the trailer isn't in the movie. That was really disappointing to me. What can I say?
Well, that's why you gotta buy the soundtrack. Songs inspired by the film Birdemic.
This was that song inspired by Birdemic. This was like the director and his buddy in a garage somewhere, just, you know, banging on guitars, screaming Birdemic because they needed a trailer song.
Oh, you mean it wasn't U2? Okay. There's a band called U2. Come on.
I got it. Jesus Christ, Tim. Right. What are you going to say? Howling 6, back on top.
No, I did find this montage kind of funny just because it was so like, I've seen this, you know, same montage in like plenty of movies before where, you know, they're fixing up the space, and usually it's like, you know, like college kids or something fixing up the old ratty dorm, or, you know, fixing up the youth center or something. So it's like a pretty common trope. It's just funny. Like, I've never seen it like done like in a church. So it was just funny seeing them like put up a cross and be like, yeah, like we did it.
Also, I thought the pacing of the montage was really weird. It was really slow paced. Like, I felt like shots of them like painting a panel, or, you know, putting the panels on, or putting the cross up. They all lasted like longer than I'd expect in a montage. It was all like really drawn out.
Yeah. Well, I would say that, I mean, this goes for like the whole movie. Everything was just super slow. Like, you know, it's going back to that, you know, that beginning shot where the person was running in slow motion. It's like, yes, I get that this is slow motion, but this is still like too slow.
The movie's an hour 40, which is far too long for a bad horror movie. Let me just tell you that. They could have easily cut 20 minutes of this, easily. And you wouldn't have lost an ounce of plot. I also want to mention, just at the end of this montage, or in the middle of the montage, I think it actually stops at one point for this little scene before the montage continues, is the daughter comes out with lemonade. It's like, oh, break time, guys, I got some lemonade, you know, heat stroke, blah, blah, blah. And the older dude, you know, the Winston, he's like, oh, I'm not tired, are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm dead tired. Like, he's like, yeah, screw you, old man, I want a drink. This is like, he kind of flips with the daughter a little bit, where she's like, you know, I'm glad you're here. I've not seen my dad smile this much in a long, long time. And he's like, you know, fun enough, he said the same thing about you. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't get it. What? And then after this, so they finish the church, and the church is all made up. And we're still in spoiler free here, by the way. I'm considering this all spoiler free. The church is set up, and the sheriff, who was you know, really like not liking the outsider, and you know, the mayor, the candidate for mayor, he's campaigning. I should mention that. All you ever
There's a big political subplot in this movie.
Yeah, you never actually see him do any actual campaigning. All you ever hear is him talking about campaigning. You never actually see any actual like election stuff going on. It's just him saying, "Oh, you know, elections are coming up. I'm counting your vote." That's all you ever hear. But they look at the church. They're really impressed. And they invite, you know, the drifter out to a drink, and he's like, nah, I'm going to just stay in tonight. And there's this really weird scene here where Winston comes up to him and says, oh, hey, please come with us. I mean, you're the most exciting thing that's happened in this town in, well, almost forever. And I'm like, is this turning into a weird subplot where he's like attracted to the outsider? Because I don't know, his dialogue just felt really weird to me. The way he talked about him, the way he was like so excited by him, It was so strange, and it was clear that he had feelings for his daughter as well. So I'm like, everything about it felt strange. I don't know.
I tell you what, a weird like father-daughter both being attracted to the same person, like werewolf movie would be a lot more interesting than what we get.
It would perk things up. So we've actually even got to what the main plot is. So the main plot is that the freak show comes to town, the carnival, and we introduced to this also British, like the guy who runs this carnival, and he's got this long hair. Now I'm actually going to admit I got really confused here because, let's be honest, all English people look alike, right? I thought so. It went from like the drifter in his bedroom, and it cut to like the evil dude who runs the carnival, and he's got the British accent. I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought this was a flashback to him, like 200 years ago, because like, he has these like helpers come in and they're like, "Hey, we got this lizard boy." He's like, and basically they've kidnapped this kid to become part of the freak show, and he says something really weird like, "Oh, if you join our group, you will never be called a freak again, except for the fact you're in an advertised freak show."
Yeah.
What? What is the logic here? Madness.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yes, bizarre. I don't get it. But so that's the thing. But yeah, so he's this evil guy, and they put on the carnival, and our main character is it implies that he knows what this carnival is, because he sort of stares at it as it comes into town, and then it seems like he's got research on it, like he's been following it somehow. But despite all that, he still goes to the carnival with the daughter, with the just for a date, and they have some fun. There's one scene where they show us that he's really good with a bow and arrow, because reasons. I don't know why. And then they walk through the freak show, and it's just kind of like lots of really weird acts. Like there's one person's just in a box with lights on, and it's like, I don't get it. It's more like modern art than it is a freak show at that point. I don't.
Are you talking about wait, before they go into the freak show, or like when they're just going through like the kind of haunted house thing at first?
I don't know. They're kind of blurring together here, to be honest.
Just because I thought that scene was really weird, because they're going through this like kind of haunted house where, the typical thing where you have like a skeleton or something will jump out at you, but it was very weird because it was like super quiet. Like I don't think there was any like there's no dialogue and stuff, and like the girl was acting like she's like really scared, but then it seems like they were having fun, and then like I don't know that they left, or it seems like it leads into another room, which is where you actually like start to get the freaks and stuff. But I don't know, it's just the way it's shot, like it is just so, and again this applies to the whole movie, but just so like lifeless. Like it just feels like no one is really into it. Like they just very broadly going through the motions. It was, I don't know, I mean, it's very uninteresting to watch.
I think that kind of describes just the performances as a whole in the movie. They're all kind of laxed and kind of not really great actors.
Yeah.
Like, obviously the villain has the most like charisma because he's kind of animated, and he's always, I mean, he's very hammy. Like he's not good, but at least he's putting some emotion into it, whereas everyone else seems to be just kind of sleepwalking through the lines. And eventually, so they run into the head of the carnival, and he like sort of gives him a tour, and gives him his what else would these freaks do with their lives if I didn't give them a place to call home, and there's like, I don't know, other things, I guess. But
yeah,
so this entire scene feels weird to me, especially like in retrospect once you've seen the rest of the movie, because both characters don't react like they know who each other are, but later on in the movie they very clearly do know who each other are. Especially the villain. The villain says after he meets him, he's like, "Hey, I get the odd impression that he knows me." And he gets his minion freaks to look into him. But later on, we find out that he's like a part of his origin. Like he helped create the main character, and it's like, how do you not remember him? Like, how are you confused by who this is? Like, because it gets really specific later on, and I don't know. So before we go any further in the plot, we'll just sort of round up spoiler-free feelings. It's boring as shit.
Yeah,
is the short answer. It's bored as shit. The performances are not good. The werewolf like effect. There's actually a transition scene in this movie, which I'll give it credit for, because the last couple kind of like chickened out at doing that.
Mhm.
The way we look at it is weird things happen over the side. There's a cat or
Oh
something.
no, yeah, no, my cat's just messing around.
Yeah, causing chaos. But yeah, so there's actually a werewolf transition scene in this one, and I mean the actual transition is okay, as far as like low budget transitions go for a werewolf movie, but the actual final product, the final werewolf, looks terrible.
It's pretty bad.
It looks like a caveman. Doesn't look like a werewolf at all.
Yeah. Like I don't know, it definitely would be like maybe, yeah, like I'm trying to think of what this show would be, but I could see it as like a low budget like TV show in the 80s or 90s having this kind of werewolf where yeah, it's like like they couldn't afford that much fur.
Yeah,
it's like
if anything,
right, like
it looks like they're trying to do a serious version of Teen Wolf or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I'm getting from it. It just feels lackluster. And then the effects of another thing that pop up later are a little bit weird as well. So yeah, obviously, I mean, you weren't expecting us to recommend this one. I mean, I think by its very nature, it's probably better than 4 and 5, but it's not really saying much.
Yeah. So wait, okay, so the 5, that was the last one. That was in the castle, right?
With all the characters. So it started off kind of promising, but then it just got really boring. You couldn't see anything for most of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I love my freaks. Like a good freak show can be pretty like, interesting. Obviously, yeah, it's kind of exploitative, nowadays. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's something interesting that you can do there. And once we get more into the plot, like there was some plot stuff that I thought could have been cool, but yeah, everything is just the way it's presented and filmed. It's just everything is dull and lifeless and boring, and it's just really a chore to get through.
Yep, that's a pretty fair way of putting it. I'm going to sit forward again. It's kind of weird. You can barely see my face if I sit back like that. So I'm going to come around here. So yeah, it's really rough and boring. Like if you cut out 20 minutes and you brisk, they made it a bit more brisk. Cut down, get the pacing on a better path. I feel like then it might be a little bit easier to stomach and say like, oh, okay, it's definitely better than the last. I think it is better than the last two by a smidge, just purely because it has actual characters. Like there's definitely, because as much as we can't remember a lot of their names, like I remember Winston, I remember the villain, and I remember the daughter and our main character, the Drifter, like the sheriff, the mayor.
You remember the freaks?
The freaks, yeah, like they're a bit more distinct. They're a bit more kind of, like just I understand. Whereas the last movie, there was so many characters that I barely could keep track of. That I'm just like, okay, there's person A, person B, person C. They're not good characters, but they are characters, at least in this one.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So I'll points where points are due. So anyway, full spoilers then from this point on. Full spoilers from Howling 6. So the Drifter is indeed the werewolf. After staying there for a few weeks, it's full moon, and he turns into a werewolf. And one of the freaks sees this, tells his master, and he insists on capturing him.
Wait, no, sorry. Let's step back a second.
Oh, sorry, Tim. We've skipped over. What do you want to talk about?
All right, so wait, was there some confusion with him about like when the full moon was going to be? Because like it seemed like he obviously knew the full moon was coming. Like I think did he have a calendar where I don't know if it already said it on there or like he wrote it down or something.
Yeah, the calendar and stuff, but he did for sure say that he was leaving that day because, and I assumed that was because it was a full moon that night.
Yeah, because it seemed like he was maybe trying to take precautions to like be away from people, or I don't know if he has maybe something where he chains himself up or something like that. But then there's a weird scene where I forget if it was the dad or the daughter, or I think it was the dad that was like knocking on the door while he was changing. But it seemed like he had like a weird thing where he was like, oh, wait a minute, the full moon's tonight. Like, I don't know. It just seemed weird, like he didn't know. But
that's actually,
how would you not know?
Joking earlier about how the dad and the daughter both seem to be into him. The dad comes in and he's like, please don't go. We love having you here. But also, this is after this a very similar scene almost where the daughter comes into his bedroom in the middle of the night and tries to
Oh yeah.
There's actually like a weird moment here where we see them kissing and then it like flashes white and it turns out they're still standing there staring at each other and he's just thinking about kissing her. and he tells her no, and she leaves all disappointed and demoralized.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it was a weird scene. But he's a werewolf, and so the bad guy like sees him with his guns, and he's like, shoot him. He's like, shoot him, and they put him down, and the dad and the daughter hear this. They come rushing out, and they see him lying there, and the dad, Winston, he's like, what are you doing to this man? He shouldn't be doing this. He's like, oh, but he is something else, and it turns out, so the bad guy has this ability. He can like hypnotize him with this crystal to turn him into a werewolf at will. Which, by the way, why was he still not a werewolf? Because they capture him, it's still nighttime. It's the same night that he turned into a werewolf, but it's still like pitch black.
Did they shoot him with like a holy tranquilizer dart or something?
No, but he was already human before that. He
Okay.
walks out as a human being, and it's still nighttime.
Maybe a cloud went over the moon.
Oh yeah, that'd be an interesting plot contrivance in a new werewolf movie. Is every time a cloud goes past the moon, he turns back into a human, and you have to like use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, does it like? I don't know if there's like consistent lore with this, but is it just like as soon as the moon's out, boom, you're it, or do you have to actually look up and see the moon? Like, do you have to have like lunar rays like shine down on you or something?
I have no idea, Tim. I don't think so, because by that logic, then any werewolf could just like stay in the house and not look outside and
Right, yeah,
be okay. And they never do it that way. So,
but it's like I would say 99.9% of werewolf movies, even when they are like inside or something, like there's always that scene of them like looking out the window, like even when it's like a tiny barred window up top, and they just see the little bit of the moon, and that's when they transform.
Yeah. But yeah, so they just kind of accept that the bad guy is like an expert on werewolves, and he should take him, right? They still go to the police the next day, but they just let it happen. And the bad guy's got him in a cage, and the sheriff, hearing about a kidnapping, and that's quite a serious thing, he goes to see our main character inside the cage, and like so the actual sequence of events here is that there's a scene before this where the bad guy tells our main character that he turned into a wolf and killed Elizabeth, the daughter, right? And because of that, he says, okay, keep me in a cage. All right, I'll stay here. Just keep me in a cage so I don't hurt anyone, right? He feels bad about that. Yeah. But then the sheriff comes to speak to him, never once says, let him out of the cage. This is, illegal imprisonment or anything like that. He just has a conversation with him. And he tells him, no, Elizabeth's alive. Like, I talked to her earlier today. And for some reason, he doesn't immediately go, wait, what? Let me out the cage. His entire motivation for staying in the cage is that he was killing people, and he didn't kill anyone.
Now, have we already gotten the scenes where like the farmers' cattle was mutilated, and I don't think we've gotten to the point where the bank lady was found dead yet.
No, because the bank lady, we see her with the bad guy, and she's found dead later, because it's the sheriff who finds her later in the in the dumpster or whatever when he comes back after he's suspicious of the circus folk. But so he stays in the cage. He kind of talks to the lizard boy who's got a new cat, which is relevant. And I got really worried here because I feel like in a movie like this is exactly the sort of shitty little movie that would do something bad to a cat, with no caring about tact or how to handle it or whatever. And we get this scene where, okay, we're putting the werewolf on show, and like apparently the entire town comes to see this, including Winston, and they've got him there, and but I may be telling them the wrong name. The dad may not be Winston. The bad guy may be Winston. I'm not sure. I'm really questioning who's called what here.
No. Well, no, because the bad guy is Harker, because it's Harker's.
It's Harker,
right?
Because that's a character from Dracula, not a vampire from Dracula, but they're calling him Harker because it's a Dracula reference. Which, by the way, he's a vampire.
It's like at this point, it's just like it's kind of hilarious how bad these movies do not want to be werewolf movies. Like it's kind of funny.
I mean, at least I can respect the idea here that it was like, oh, let's do a werewolf versus a vampire, and that'll be what the movie builds up to. Yeah. It's so convoluted and boring though that like, I don't care.
Oh yeah. Well, I think there are like some like decent ideas in here. Like Like first of all, you know, these circus masters, like they are messed up. Like it was actually a real life thing that what's his face, P.T. Barnum. He actually did like capture like people he considered freaks and like basically kept them like imprisoned as part of the circus. So like that is like a very like evil malicious thing that could be like
Wait a
an
minute.
interesting story.
I have a feeling that the Hugh Jackman movie did not touch upon such an occurrence.
Oh no, that's of course they just kind of gloss over all that stuff. Like we'll just kind of go past the all the bad stuff he did to like animals and
I never saw the movie,
people
but
he
I
deemed
just
lesser.
I saw the trailer. It was all about inclusion and like he was a beacon for equality, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a bit bullshit.
Yeah.
Looking at it.
Oh no, definitely.
So.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but I heard like what it's about and stuff, and yeah, they definitely gloss over a lot of that stuff. But hey, maybe that's just leaving the road open for the real life story of P.T. Barnum, which could be an interesting movie. Get David Fincher to do it.
I feel like we always joke about the gritty reboot, but I feel like that's one that the gritty reboot will be the true version. So go for it, I guess.
Yeah, but like I think that would be like an interesting movie though if you have like this evil messed up circus master who is keeping these kind of freaks around, and he captures like a werewolf or something, and then it's like the werewolf should kind of become like the leader of these freaks, and they should rise up and like take over the circus that's been like imprisoning them and stuff. Like that would be an interesting movie. But yeah, it's not that it's not interesting at all, unfortunately.
Yeah. So basically, they put on the show. They try and get as a werewolf to like kill a cat, but he sees the lizard boy, remembers that he cares about the cat, and gives him the cat back. And bad guy's really upset about this. And then,
I mean, the whole crowd's upset about.
Oh
this.
sure,
like,
yeah, they were there for blood.
Eat that cat.
Yeah, but it's like okay, so now he's a werewolf who can actually control himself. Okay, right. I mean, that's not necessarily a terrible idea to like go for like a sixth werewolf movie in a franchise. Like, oh, maybe someone can actually learn to control them when they're a beast. But
sure.
Not a lot is done with it here, really. But so he's still captive. He gets out. He actually tricks one of the other freaks by threatening his insect collection that was just brought up out of nowhere. I think that was the scene.
Maybe.
Yeah, something to that effect. And he breaks out. So while this is going on, the mayor, so the sheriff comes by, finds the dead body, and then the bad guy catches him, and we see his hand turn into something. We don't get to see what it looks like yet, but we see that he turns into some sort of creature and kills the sheriff and leaves him on display in the middle of town. And that leads to the town wanting to hunt. They think the werewolf guy did it. They think it was or Drifter. So they all get a mob together. They've got their guns and their pitchforks and whatever, and they're coming for him. And it's actually the daughter Elizabeth comes and says they think you killed the sheriff. Come with me. So they run off together. They have their steamy love scene, and it wasn't that steamy. It was like bathwater after it's like mild. It's just been out for a little while, so it's still kind of warm.
Is it tepid?
Tepid. There you go. It's tepid.
There you go.
It's a tepid love scene. And they have that, and it's all very romantic. It's not really, but
see, they gotta save the real passion for the father later on.
Oh, of course, yes. And obviously, the father hates the Drifter now. He's like, "Oh, you're the devil. You're no child of God," and blah 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 blah. And the daughter's trying to convince him.
I don't like you anymore.
Yes. I wish I knew how to quit you.
And I don't know if they mentioned it yet, but they do. At some point, they do talk about what you need to kill a werewolf, which again, you do need not just silver, but like holy silver. Like
yes, silver bullets that have been blessed by a priest. Just to make it as convoluted as possible.
Yeah. Everyone knows that famous werewolf lore where you gotta have a holy bullets, not just silver bullets.
Okay, so but the dad actually does find thingy's research, like his scrapbook of all the research, and it's like, oh, this carnival goes from town to town, and people go missing and die. And then
yeah, I feel like there was a couple of scenes where like people were looking through old newspapers that I just could not care about.
But the bad guy actually shows up in the room with them when he does this, and he's like, "It was you.
Oh.
You killed all these people." And the bad guy just sort of like comes in and goes, "So effing what?" and then just hits him. It may be the best scene in the movie. His reaction to this actually made me laugh. It was so good. He's like, "So effing what?" and then he just throws him across the room. I mean, that works, sure. But before this, we did have a reveal before this though of like, what he looks like as a vampire, because the mayor comes into his trailer during the day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we've not seen him during the day yet." Okay, that's a hint. It turns out he's actually sleeping. Like his coffin, if you will, is underneath the seat in his RV, and then he jumps out of the RV and like bites the fat mayor in the stomach.
And I will say I kind of like this death scene. It was pretty like brutal and over the top.
Yeah, that scene's okay.
Because this is when he like throws him through the roof, right?
Yeah, he throws him out the roof, and then we cut to a shot outside, and then we see him getting dragged back in through the roof. And honestly, yeah, this scene's fine. There's no I have no complaints with this scene. In terms of like a horror movie, this is probably the best scene. I think I had more entertainment with So Effing What. That was a funnier scene to me. But as a scene where the monster's attacking someone, this was fine. You know, it's fine. So the bad guy actually like rallies the mob and wants them to shoot our main character, and they kind of wuss out because he looks like a guy. He's not a wolf at this point. He's like, "No, he's just a person. Like we can't do this." And I'm like, "This is unrealistic. These are hicks with guns. They would have happily fired on him." I don't believe this for a second. So he
he was a white person, so
that was cutting social commentary, Tim. I can't fault it. Yeah. So. To be fair, like most of the people in this movie are white.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the sad truth is the only people who aren't white in this movie are the freaks. There's a couple of freaks who aren't white.
Yeah.
Read into that what you will. I mean, I don't think we have to examine that closely.
One of the we didn't really talk about the freaks. One of them is like I know this was a real thing in the circus that they did, but I don't know why. But just a guy that just bites the heads off of chickens, like. I don't know why that was ever a thing. Like, I mean, I know we eat chickens, but no one wants to see someone just bite the head off one.
Yeah, and there's a little guy who's got like the third arm under his sleeve, under his armpit, and then and then there's the Eddie Izzard looking one who's kind of like her act is basically the half her like it's like Two-Face, but one half's a woman, one half's a man, and she's like turning round.
Yeah. I think that's. I think there's a specific name for that because I have seen that kind of like that kind of freak before. I've seen like a lot of stuff about freak shows, but I forget what they call that. They might just have labeled that as like a hermaphrodite or something. Maybe like when they would try to get people to come in. I forget, but
I don't know.
But I will say,
is it just me, or does it feel like talking about these characters, you have to kind of tiptoe because a lot of it is just outright offensive. Like a lot of it is just.
Oh no, definitely. Well,
yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of a freak show is like wildly offensive. Like it's basically pointing at these people and acting like they're monsters. I do think nowadays, like I think there are still freak shows, but I think it is more kind of like, like performance based and like kind of embracing stuff as opposed to being like, oh, look at these crazy outsiders that are chained to the wall. But
it's like someone who has a really good party trick will go and do that on stage, and that's what's freaky about it. Yeah.
But I do want to say though again, I'm not sure what like the name is or whatever, but the person that's like their act is like they're half man half woman. Like I do think that act was actually good. Like of all when they're going through like the sideshow and stuff, I was like, oh, that's actually like pretty entertaining. Like they sing good. I don't know. I thought that was well done.
I've never been big on variety show stuff, so it never really landed for me. Just because I'm like, whatever. I don't get it. But So basically, when the mob refuses to kill our main character, the bad guy just vamps out, turns into because this is the thing when he turns into a vampire, like full vampire mode. He turns into like a proper demon-looking thing. He's like his entire skin goes oily black,
like an orc or something.
And he gets like super strength, like flips a car, and it becomes this vampire versus werewolf fight. Although he's not a werewolf yet. He's actually just fighting him as a man, and he's like barely surviving, fighting for his life. And it's actually the lizard boy who gets the little charm or whatever it is. And
Crystal
luckily,
thing, yeah.
he was paying attention to what the bad guy was saying earlier on to turn him into a werewolf. He's like, no, you have to become the beast to fight him. You have to become the werewolf. And I'm like, you know what? I can almost see the good version of this movie where the good guy who's a werewolf is, he's barely surviving against a stronger vampire, and he turn. It's essentially a Hulk story, right? It's Hulk, like Bruce Banner's doing shit. He has to Hulk out to win.
Yeah. I mean, like a Hulk originally was like very like werewolf like. I think even in the first couple of issues, he would turn to the Hulk because of like a full moon, and like not even because he gets angry.
So yeah, and that's basically it. The movie actually ends oddly with he wins the fight. There's some humorous.
He like rips like a hole in the ceiling or something.
Yeah, it's
basically sunlight comes in.
It's a circus tent, so he sort of rips it. Which I guess I like the actual image of that because it kind of harkens back to the poster for the first movie with the claw marks and the fabric. Yeah. I think that's what they were going for there. And the light hits him,
and then like his body melting was like fine.
It was
like,
okay, yeah.
It looked kind of cool.
It was like a reverse stop motion kind of effect, right? With the putty kind of going away.
That's
yeah. It was okay. But the last shot of the movie is our main character doesn't grab Elizabeth and like walks off with her into the sunset, or even the dad who's also there now, and like he actually shows up and like helps a little bit. He actually picks up Lizard Boy and walks off with him into the sunset. just an outright twist on where you thought this was going. And I guess what it's saying is that okay, like he's accepting that he's a freak like him, so he's going to look after him because he helped him. But like, is he going to hang around with Elizabeth? Are they going to be happy after this? What was happening? I don't know if I care mentally, but that's what the movie ends on. It fades to black, and that's it. Actually, I want to point out one of the moments where there's a boom mic shot. It's when they first capture the main character. They shoot him, and the daughter and the dad are there, and he's looking down. It's like this low shot looking up at him, and he's very menacing. And it's like this big moment where he's like saying, "No, this is a creature, this is a werewolf." It's like one of the big speeches of the movie. And the entire time there's a boom mic just peeking in at the top.
Jesus.
And I'm like, this is like one of your big shots. It's a close up as well. Like, how did you mess this up so bad? Yeah, close ups. Boom mics rather, all over the place. Boom mics for everyone.
Yeah. Well, it would be cool if there was a movie where they were like filming a movie and one of the actors started to turn into a vampire, and then they used the boom mic like a stake and just like rammed it down into their chest.
Which, by the way, he tries to.
That'd be cool.
When he's a wolf, he tries to stake the vampire before he melts him with the sunlight, and he stabs him like in the neck. I'm like, that's not even close to the heart. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing if you put it in the middle, but this was like up at the neck. I'm like, no, don't even tell me. Shut up. So that was weird. Yeah, so yeah, it's a weird. It's like there's a couple of outrageous ideas, like vampire versus werewolf. Okay, cool. But it's really dull.
I feel like there's almost like two different movies going on here. Like there's a whole thing with a drifter coming into town, and like I mean that could be a werewolf movie where a guy comes into town and then people start getting attacked, and who's a stranger, but he's kind of already been embraced by the community or something. Like that could be a fine enough movie on its own. But and then like all the freak show stuff feels like it should just be like it's a separate thing. Like if you're gonna do a movie, especially one called The Freaks, like I feel like you should just really focus more on that. Like we don't need any of this crap about this small town. And like there could have been cool ideas with it. Like again, like you said, the kind of like werewolf fighting a vampire is kind of played out, but there was some cool moments to it. And again, I think the idea of capturing a werewolf for a freak show could be interesting, but it's just they really don't do anything with it, and everything is so dull and boring and lifeless. It's just a real pain to get through this one.
So there's one big thing that we've not talked about yet that we have to discuss. So when he's with Elizabeth after they've had sex, or just before they've had sex, he reveals his backstory. And he says that his father was hunting Harker because of what he was doing. And Harker killed his father, maybe his whole family, it wasn't quite clear, and he left him cursed as a werewolf. So Harker's responsible for him becoming a werewolf, right? So there's two questions I have here. One is, how does he not remember him? He actually created him, right? Was he that young maybe at the time? Was he like a kid and that's why he doesn't recognize him? If so, say that. And the other question I have is, how did a vampire make a werewolf exactly?
I mean, do we take it for granted now that we just like werewolves are common? We kind of just know what their deal is. Like, was there a time where people just didn't know how they worked, so they're just like, I don't know. I guess a vampire creates them. That sound about right?
I feel this is more thought than the makers put into this. I don't get this logic. Like, how did the vampire make the werewolf? I don't get it.
Yeah,
it's
that sounds like a children's riddle.
Yeah, it's I don't get it. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. It took me out. I mean, I wasn't really into the movie, but it really took me out of it. I was like, what? That makes no sense. Shut up. You're a stupid movie. You're stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't not mention that. That was like the biggest like what the hell moment. So
yeah. You immediately logged onto the Howling message board and started writing some angry rants.
Oh, I might Tim. I might go on to the Howling fan site where there's dozens of people to care about the Howling franchise past the first one.
There's dozens of us.
Dozens, I tell you, dozens. But yeah, I guess we should rate the movie, Tim. I guess.
I will be interested actually if they're like how big is the fan base for these movies? I would actually be legitimately interested.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine it's that big because these are not good sequels. Like 2 and 3 are bad movies, but they're kind of entertaining. Like I get why people would enjoy those. 4, 5, and 6 though are absolute. Like I'm pretty sure this one's considered to be good by like Howling fans, like the people who like the franchise, and I don't get it. Like it's not good. It's bad. It's straight up bad. It's better than the last 2, but it's still straight up bad. So I don't know. I don't know why you say that, but that is. Tim, what would you rate the Howling 6, The Freaks, out of 10?
I think I'll give it a 3, just because, like you said, it's a little better than the last couple of ones, and maybe there was 1 or 2 scenes that like some of the special effects stuff, even though there wasn't a lot of it, when there was, it was kind of good, like the transformation stuff, the melting scene at the end, even though the Carnival Harker or whatever, like even though it doesn't really look like a vampire, like his design did look kind of cool, but yeah, like more for like a weird magic-y, demon-y kind of thing, not necessarily what I think of a vampire, but I was like, oh, it does look cool. But I tell you what though, it's like, not that I think they need to do like an HD remaster or something of this, but like I don't know, I did think it was like a lot of scenes with him like where it looked kind of dark and stuff, like it didn't look that great. I don't know.
Oh sure,
it would look better.
It's nothing compared to the last one, because 5 was like so dark for like 70% of the movie. Like once they started going underground in the last one, you couldn't see anything. This one was a lot of daytime scenes, so I didn't have that problem to the same extent. I also
3 is a little generous, but
I mean, I might even go as high as a 3.5, Tim. And
ooh, wow.
I think the reason why I'd say that is because if I'm compared to what the last movies were, this one does kind of have characters. It has that one really funny scene where so effing and what, which was quite funny. The kill of the mayor was pretty good.
Oh, true, yeah.
And it does at least feel like a movie, even if it makes not a lot of sense. It is far too long. It's not paced well. The direction's really poor and sloppy. Like, the actual fight between the vampire and the werewolf is kind of just dull and sucky.
Yeah.
It's not exciting or well shot or anything. It's just it's very bland. And so
not the kind of sucky you usually want from a vampire either.
No. It's not the kind of sucky that the dad wants from our main character either. So
I know.
I know. What can I say? So I guess yeah.
You loved it.
I don't even know if I wanted. No, 3 out of 10. I can't go as high as 3.5.
Okay.
It's just not good enough for it.
Yeah.
Sad as that sounds, it's just not good enough for it.
Well, hopefully 7 redeems the franchise. How many more do we get of these? Like 15?
No, there's not too many left. We got a 7, and then we have an 8th. I think there's maybe just 2 more. There's 2 or 3 more.
Okay.
I think.
Is there a reboot then? I don't know.
I think the reboot is the 8th one. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me investigate. Hold on. Let me just. I'm sure we did this at the end of like the 4th one as well. And like, how many we got left? We're like ready to know. We need to know right now. Yeah. There's the Howling Reborn. There's the Howling Newman Rising.
Okay. Wait, didn't we already have a Reborn?
No, we had Howling 5 was the Rebirth.
Okay.
The Howling Reborn is the 2011 reboot.
The reboot that reinvigorated the franchise.
I think it's just those 2 left. I'll double check. Let me confirm that.
No, don't. No, let's just say it's 2. No need to do more than that.
Oh, I missed the first letter. It just says Howling franchise. Right.
I'd definitely be down for some Howling.
The Howling. Oh, that'd be a fun movie.
Giant owl.
Yeah, just 2 left, Tim. We just got 2 left.
Interesting.
So this one was 1991. The next one's 1995. That's Newman Rising, the 7th film, and it jumps all the way to 2011 for number 8. Which, given the year it came out, I'm going to make a wild guess and say that it was inspired by Twilight.
Oh yeah, has to be.
I think that's a fair assumption to make. But I guess that's us done talking about the Howling 6, The Freaks. So if you've seen the movie, if you're unfortunate enough, you can let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on patreon.com/MaileFuzzTV. You can, of course, over there vote for one of the movies we do every month. You can, of course, add movies to the Crypt, which is a to-do list of movies that our patrons get to add. Everyone can see the list. You can get a link to the list in the description, but patrons can add movies to it. In fact, it's been a while since we've done a Crypt movie, Tim. We should probably do one soon.
Ooh.
I think we'll add that to the schedule, so we're still chipping away at them. But yeah, so you can get that on Patreon, and we're always trying to think of new ideas for stuff over there. But most importantly, you get a mildly fuzzy feeling for supporting us, and you feel good about it. If you can't do that though, don't worry. You can like, subscribe, comment, all the other stuff helps us too. But that's it. So thank you once again for watching or listening, and we always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.